Hi everyone, I'm Tom. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for the meeting, Mary, and thanks for asking me to talk with you lot tonight. Um, I've been coming to an all-night place for about a month or so, um, because I was getting up really early, so having sleeping problems, and found it on the AA Intergroup website, and I've loved it. It's been brilliant. Really, really enjoy coming here and being a part of this group with all of you. Um, right, so I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. So I have a younger brother who's 5 years younger than me. I'm 38, going to be 39 in a month. And my upbringing had a mum and dad, and dad was an alcoholic, and he stopped drinking when I was about 12. So I've got sort of a vague memory of the problems that caused in the family. He was very good at hiding it from me. I never saw him, you know, blackout drunk doing anything crazy, but I have memories of being in bed upstairs at night and hearing mum and dad screaming at each other, shouting at each other. Mum saying, "I'm going to leave you, and if you don't stop drinking," and all that kind of stuff. And I remember one night in particular, I was a real vivid memory praying for mum and dad to stop arguing. And the next morning, everything was all right, and you know, and things were fine and downstairs. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I've asked for that, I've prayed for that, and that's happened. That's crazy. It for anything. And obviously, it didn't sort things out. Mum and dad was still drinking, and there was still more trouble with that. But anyway, he put down the bottle, and when I was about 12, and it wasn't until later in life, I asked him when my own drinking problem started. I asked him about what he did and how he stopped drinking. So he went to AA for a year, and that helped him stop. And then he left AA, sober 24 years when he died. He passed away 3 years ago from COVID and other complications. And that was great. That he I understand that he used AA to help him, but it also wasn't great because I'm hearing my alcoholic brain is hearing, oh, you do it for a year and then you can stop, but you don't need to do AA anymore. So that was almost like a false sort of promise there, in a way, do what I need to get, and then I can just be a dry drunk. That's effectively what it was. I know that since coming into AA because his ism transferred to other things. He would become very obsessive about different things. In later in life, I was looking after him and mum. I was living with them both, and he was completely addicted to Amazon. I mean, we're talking about 5 or 6 Amazon deliveries a day. It was like a depot. The whole back room was full up of packages. The garden was full up of packages. He just he couldn't stop. And I mean, he was in a bad way in terms of he was very ill and stuff. And I kind of thought to myself, well, it's his money. If this is giving him some kind of pleasure, towards the end of his life, I sort of let it be. Really, didn't really step in, but it just shows really, like, if you have untreated alcoholism, it can come out in lots of different other forms. So just a quick run through of like my early life. So I had my first drink when I was about 15. Um, Definitely drank alcoholically straight away. I was with friends and just was necking these bottles of Alco Pops and being silly and getting obviously getting drunk, and I thought it was all we all thought it was absolutely hilarious, like drinking. And that group of friends, I had quite an eccentric group of friends. We were all a bit, we weren't like we weren't the cool kids at school or anything like that. We got kind of like a mixture of nerds and just a bit unusual characters. But I realised now, looking back, we were all sort of goading each other on. So, we used to think it was absolutely hilarious to get drugs, get drink, all get together, get wasted, and just abuse that stuff really. My drinking really picked up when I went to university. Over in the UK, there's a real culture of you sort of almost getting drunk is almost like a badge of honor. Um, I can see in sobriety that there's a big drinking problem in the UK. Like the pubs and clubs are big focus of like local areas. It's a very normal thing, if you like, to go out and get wasted on a Friday night after a working week. People won't batter an eyelid at that. And it isn't really until that kind of lifestyle. It isn't really until, I guess, mid to late 20s when people are starting to settle down and move on with their lives. I started to notice actually I'm not able to let this go. I was really living for the weekend, working hard, living for the weekend, getting absolutely smashed, spending Sunday all day in bed, barely being able to move, picking myself up, getting to work Monday, and then doing that same thing again and again. And I remember in my early 20s, I used to think, God, is this what life is all about? Like, this is a bit depressing. I'm just in this cycle of working during the week, getting to Friday, and then as soon as Friday would finish, I'd get this buzz, this excitement. Like, even the thought of getting drunk was getting me excited, and then going out, getting hammered, getting smashed. And don't get me wrong, I had some good times. It wasn't all sadness, but that was before that invisible line was crossed. I've tried to sort of pinpoint when was the invisible line crossed. The line you cross where, okay, you can't go back. You can't uncross that line now. Drinking has you, if you like, finally has you in its grips, and it's not letting go. I think it was when I was about, let me just try and work out the years now. So I'm 38 now. Yeah, so when I was about 28, I was living with a girl, long-term relationship, and my mum had a brain aneurysm. Just suddenly out of the blue, she was very, very fit, very, there's nothing wrong. Just one night happened. Dad drove her to the hospital. She had emergency surgery on her brain, and they saved her life, which is wonderful. But she was in a coma for a month, and she lost her speech. She lost the ability to swallow and eat. She lost the movement in her right side, so right arm, right leg, couldn't move it at all, paralyzed. And that was like green light. So I was drinking 24/7 for about 3 months, and the people around me were like, of course, that let Tom do this, that absolutely, he's just this awful things just happened to his mum. And I think those 3 months really cemented it for me. I mean, I might be wrong on that, and it might be another time, but I think that's really where it really hit off. And it wasn't until about after 3 months that this my ex, who I was living with at the time, said, "Tom, don't you think it's time you stop now? I think we've all given you your grace period, but I'm getting a little bit worried about you now." And I said, "Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right." But I discovered I couldn't stop. I was getting, really anxious. So I found an alcohol service where I met with this lady, lovely lady, and she wanted me to do an alcohol journal. So she said, write down what you're having each week. Of course, I lied. Of course, I didn't put anywhere near what I was drinking. And then she'd look at it and she'd go, "Oh, that's good progress." Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, that's not even a quarter of what it is. And then the next week, I think, oh shit, what did I put last week? I'll put a little bit less this week. I mean, it was all completely crazy. I mean, it was, it wasn't going to help me at all. And I think it was just me paying lip service. I think I was trying to fool my girlfriends at the time, and trying to sort of like make it look as if I was doing something about it, but it was just nonsense, really. Um, I'm a teacher as well, so I was getting into this sort of getting to work. As soon as work was finished, I was going to the pub, staying until sometimes till closing time, getting home completely shattered, passing out, waking up, feeling awful, absolutely awful, dry retching, sweating, headache, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get into? I can't stand in front of those kids and teach a lesson. I mean, I'm an absolute wreck. Just pumping myself full of painkillers and coffee, somehow getting through, somehow getting through, and then doing the same thing over and over again. I genuinely don't know where I found the energy to do that. It was insane, like just an insane merry-go-round, going round and round and round and round. And I'd call in sick. Sometimes I'd call in sick, still drinking, in the morning. And I was thinking, okay, right, so I'll have a sick day. I'll carry on drinking. I'll stop maybe two or three, or when I pass out again, and then I'll be all right for the next day. And sometimes that worked, sometimes that didn't, and that's the progression. I saw a doctor as well. I told the doctor, I said, look, I'm depressed. I'm really struggling at the moment. And the thing is, if you're a teacher and you tell a doctor over here on the NHS that you're depressed, they're more than happy to sign you off. They're like, of course, yeah, definitely. How long do you want off? Do you want 3 weeks? Yeah, of course, because it is a stressful job, but it's completely wide open to abuse. And I was using that for drinking. The relief, the sigh of relief when I got that doctor's note. I was like, oh my God, I've got 3 weeks off work. Obviously telling my girl it was just drinking. It was just drinking and using. Um, I Alcohol's not the only thing in my sort of story, if you like. I used a lot of cocaine, and I have a gambling addiction as well. Um, and those three were all completely intertwined. I, I started using cocaine when I was out with friends, and then it would be just getting cocaine and using it on my own, having a party for one, um, staying up all night on online casinos, gambling, just burning through money. I mean, online gambling, you can burn through a lot of money really quick. I mean, you have those nights where you woke up and you think, fuck, what did I spend in the bar? What did I spend in you know, how much did I buy off of that dealer? But I mean, I'm talking like some mornings I'd wake up and I'd blown like 2,000-3,000 pounds and it was all gone, and I was thinking, shit, what am I going to do for the rest of the month until the next payday? So I'd have to take out a loan or use a credit card or that kind of thing. And this thing just got worse and worse and worse. It got and I was keeping this secret from everyone. So I was dealing with that stress on my own, thinking I'm gonna. Well, what I thought was I'm gonna win it back. I'm gonna get a big win. I'm gonna win it back. Pay all this debt off. It's gonna be fine. And I did have some big wins, which is horrible. It's like that sort of dangling the carrot thing. I remember one night in particular, I put £100 on my account. Took about 4 or 5 hours playing roulette. I got up to £30,000, and I didn't cash out. I didn't cash out. I blew it all. I went up to 30,000, and then boom, just lost it all. And the feeling in the morning. I had to drink on that, obviously, because I just could not deal with that. I couldn't accept that I had the money to sort myself out, and I blew it all. But that's part of the addiction. So it got to um, I got to a point where, well, me and my girlfriend, she asked me to leave because of my drinking. Um, One night I came back in a rage. I was smashing things, awful, completely out of character, terrible. Must have scared she said, you need to leave. And her mum picked her up actually because she felt unsafe. I mean, I still feel awful about that. So I went back home, lived with my mum and dad. The problem carried on. My brother said to me, my brother's in NA, and he said, look, Tom, I think you need to go to an AA meeting. I'll take you to one. So I went to a meeting with him, and I think it was probably the worst AA meeting I've ever been to. I was very, very unlucky. I walked into the room, there's two people fighting, physically fighting, drunk. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? They managed to get those people out. Then at the meeting, there's some guy in front of me making all this noise, and I just couldn't hear anything properly, and I couldn't relate to what people were saying. I was thinking, this isn't for me. I said to my brother afterwards, I said, I don't think this is right for me. And he said, I promise you that is not what an AA meeting is normally like. I've been to AA meetings. That you have really got unlucky there. Go, try another one. They're not all like that, and they're not. I mean, 99.9% of meetings are fantastic, and the rooms are full of love, and you get all the help and everything. So it's just bad luck. But that kind of put me off a little bit. I eventually did start going to meetings, and obviously my drinking, and I hadn't stopped doing all three. I could put the cocaine down for a little bit. I ended up blocking myself. There's a service you can block yourself at, but obviously I was still free to walk into bookies and place bets. I remember it was one birthday about 3 years ago where I'd had another party for one on my own. I was in a terrible state, and I just picked a guy that I'd sort of known from some meetings. I said, would you be my sponsor? And he said, yeah, I will. And we built up a relationship, and I told him he was the first person I told about all this debt I was in. I was in £70,000 worth of debt. I'd maxed out all my credit, there was not like my credit score was, no one was going to lend me any more money. That was the maximum. And I didn't have enough money to get through each month, so I'd reached that sort of breaking point. And I said to him, I've got this drawer in my room that I put all these letters in, unopened letters. It's literally full to the brim of letters, like payment due, this and that. So he came round to mum and dad's house where I was living, and we got all the letters, put them on the kitchen table, and he helped me one by one open them all, sort them all out. And I started to make phone calls, and basically rang these people up and said, look, I'm struggling, I want to sort this out, I need help. I'm really, really forever grateful that he helped me face up to that, and he guided me. I had to see that was the only way that this is going to get solved, by facing it. So it was decided the best thing for me was to go bankrupt. I had no assets. I didn't have a house or a car or anything like that. I mean, it's quite a scary thing, thinking, I'm going to go bankrupt. But I had not, there was nothing they could take from me. I didn't have anything, and that's because I was in active addiction. I never had the money to buy anything or move on with my life or do anything meaningful. So I'm a year and a half through that left. And it's so nice not to have to worry about people calling you up demanding bills and taken to court and this and that and that. It's like a payment plan where I get a certain chunk, pay each month, manageable chunk out of my salary, and I'm not rolling in money, but I don't have to have beans on toast every night, which is what I was having to do sometimes when I didn't have enough money, or whatever was in the cupboard, because I had no money to go out and get food because I'd blown it all on drugs and drink and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I think that's quite a lot I've spoken about, like the horror and the problems. But what I found it hasn't been linear, if you like. I haven't jumped into AA and never picked up a drink. I've relapsed about 20 or 30 times, and I have wondered to myself, what's going on? Why can't I get step one? Why can't I accept that this is terrible for me? And I think there's a lot of things really. Refusing to accept, I think, is the main thing, and not wanting to let go of that part of my life having to go through the grief as well of losing that part of my life, even though I know that it was extremely harmful. Um, you know, to see really, really clearly that basically addiction and using got me into the terrible trouble I was in, and it's never going to get better. You know, that line has been crossed, and it's never going to get better. My last drink was on the 9th of Jan this year, so I'm just over 90 days now. Thank you, everyone, and I feel good. You know, I feel good. I feel strong. I've got my chips over there on the kitchen table. So I've got my 3 chips. I'm the longest I ever got was 6.5 months, and I'm sort of giving my chips back to myself, if you like. And my routine now, I do at least one meeting. So I do 1 or 2 in the morning. I pray, and I do my best to be, you know, kind, and to be like considerate about others, not just thinking about myself. And it really is a matter of, you know, what you want, what you put into it is what you get back. It really is. I was thinking of an analogy about sobriety, right? So if you might have seen it on TV, you get these strongmen events, and one of the events is they've got to pull like a 10-ton truck. I mean, they've got like a rope with a harness, and they're straining and trying to pull and pull and pull. That's like stopping drinking. That's that first initial bit. And then you see them slowly start to make these little steps, tiny, tiny little steps, and the thing starts to move. And I feel like that's recovery. And you know, they start moving. You can see the things building up momentum. Now, if they stop pulling, that thing still moves for a little bit. You know, they still got some momentum there. And I feel like when my brain tells me I'm not an alcoholic, it's like them putting the rope down and thinking and saying, "Hey, look, this thing's still moving. I don't need recovery." But I think you have to keep going. You have to keep taking those little steps. Don't forget about how hard it was at the start. You know, this thing isn't going to move on its own. You still need to get that rope and that harness and still take those little steps. Sometimes little steps, sometimes big steps. You know, like sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. If you start drinking again, it's like you're pushing back against the truck and you're trying to stop it. So anyway, that was an analogy about it. I've got some notes here. I just want to, if there's anything I've missed out. Oh yeah, so benefits of sobriety. So in the last year or so, I went to the doctors and I said to them, I'm a recovering alcoholic. Can you give me a check over? Because I was worried about what damage I'd done to myself. Turns out I've got a condition called hemochromatosis, which is where my body collects iron and it doesn't let the iron go. I would never have known that if I hadn't got sober. Never known it. And what happens with that condition is if you don't let out blood, the iron builds up in your organs, and by my 50s or 60s, I could get organ failure. There's no symptoms other than just some tiredness at my current age, and the NHS don't screen for it. I think they should, but they don't. You know, money costs and all that. So that's one thing. Another thing was I found out I had sleep apnea, and I was just constantly tired the whole time. I used to think it was because I was drinking. That's why I was tired. I think, well, of course you're bloody tired. You've been hammering it. But no. So I have a machine now that a little mask I fit on when I sleep, and it's been amazing. You know, I just have more energy in the day to do stuff. You know, it's really been life changing. So, you know, the knock on effect is I put down the drink, went to the doctors, you know, started to be a little bit proactive in my own recovery and just general well-being, and discovered these 2 things, and you know, I'm getting them addressed. I'll tell you something funny. I'm going to finish up soon. I think the best thing I heard in someone's share once, because I just thought it was so real. This guy said, "My first year of sobriety was a whirlwind of iced buns and masturbation." And I thought, wow, okay, he's really, you know, he's really telling it as it is. But do whatever you need to do to stay sober. I mean, honestly, if you need to, you know, stand with one leg in the air, and if you need to do naked dancing in front of the mirror for half an hour, if you need to, watch Disney films all day, or whatever you need to do at the beginning. Whatever you need to do, just do not drink and get some decent sobriety time. Let the crazy fog clear, and then you can start to build on from there. A good question I ask myself, and again, this is not me, this is from someone else. I think it's really, really good question I can ask myself at any time is, what is the purpose you are achieving with this behavior? And it could be related to anything, something you're doing in your life. If you just ask yourself, what is the purpose you're achieving with that behavior? And that can be really good just to sort of think, hang on a minute, is this achieving anything? Am I getting anything out of this? Is this helping others? And then that can help you. You can think about how you can address that then. And I've got a photo album on my phone called AA, and I save anything that I get sent that I like. Two of my favourite things in that are one I got recently, and it says, I've been ashamed of my drinking hundreds of times, but I've never been ashamed of my sobriety. And I think that's something that I can really relate to. The other thing, someone made up a business card, like a little business card, but it's from God or your higher power, whatever you want to call it. And it says on there, "Good morning, this is God. I will be handling all of your problems today. I will not need your help. So relax and have a great day." And I think that's a good reminder. None of our business if we're truly handing it over to our higher power, or however you want to approach that. So yeah, I think that's it really. I thank you very much for asking me to share, and I hope I haven't put anyone to sleep. It's really good to be here with you. So thanks.